What's up, class? This is our last week until the AP test. Ooh, it's on Friday. Ooh. So in the next couple days, you should be getting your email kind of tickets. So keep an eye out for that. Please make sure if you haven't already, test out all of the technology, all the submission process, and all of that. So far, we've had a separate video just on thesis. We've had a separate video on outside info, on document use. So this video is going to be on trying to navigate the question types so you know exactly what they want you to do. Remember, this is an open book or open note, if you will, AP test this year. So feel free to go back and look at these things while you're taking your test. Again, you don't have a lot of time, so please don't spend all of your time like navigating through documents and so forth, but you can go back to try and look at some of these things. That being said, let's talk about some question types. And I know this is probably old hat, but I think it's worth at least going over again. Of the three types, the first type you might encounter is the compare and contrast. As it says here, this is all about trying to evaluate how much something's similar or how much it is different. A good way to think of this is always you're making an argument, right? And that's one thing I've noticed in some of our submissions lately. We're doing a good job showcasing our historical knowledge by, like, hey, this is where something was in history, but not going that extra step as far as our historical arguments. So it's not just simply talking about how something's similar or different, but you're being persuasive. You're arguing this was more different than that, and here's why, or this was more similar to that, and here's why. Example of one of these questions would be contrast the Federalist and Anti-Federalist arguments for or against the ratification of the new federal constitution. So basically, you think of this like a Venn diagram, right? Oops, sorry. You think of it like a Venn diagram. I'm actually trying to get. Oh, I thought I could draw a pointer. Is that gonna let me draw? No. Sorry, I should have worked this out earlier. Okay, sorry, I thought I could draw on this. I can't. But think of it like a Venn diagram. You're going to be coming to a conclusion. Were these two groups more different in their reasons for the Constitution, or do they have more in common? And again, it's not just simply describing their views, but you're being persuasive. They were completely different. Here's why. But we always have complexity. The complexity to this kind of question would be the similarities, right? So if your answer, your why, is that these two things are very different, your X, your complexity is how they're similar. Flip that. If your why, your answer is that two things are similar, your complexity, your X, is their differences. That's how you get that complex. A second question type is historical causation. Identify the causes slash effects, the reasons for something happening. What was the great reason? Now, this is different than a change in continuity question. A causation is accepting that something happens. So maybe like America enters World War II. This kind of question would say, what were the causes that led to that? And your job would be to determine the biggest factor that led us into this war. Your complexity is talking about other factors, saying, yeah, of course, there's other things that had a point to it, but here's the biggest reason, and here's why, right? That persuasive, here's why it's the biggest cause. An example of one of these types of questions: evaluate the relative importance of different causes for the expanding role of the United States in the world in the period from 1865 to 1910. We are accepting, this is a fact here at the back end, that the United States had its role expand globally. That's not for debate. Our debate here is why that happened, the causes. So you would pick out your biggest cause, maybe it's an economic cause, and here's why. Then you would talk about other reasons that it happened. That's your complexity, but you're looking for the biggest reason why this happened. It's very different for a continuity and change. This is trying to figure out, is something demonstrating a brand new movement in American history? This is something brand new, or is this something similar to what we've seen before? Continuity is a continuation. A change is something new. An example of a question, these ones I feel we've worked on the most. Evaluate the extent to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the US from 1890 to 1920. So your job here is to determine if there was political change. Like your cause and effect, you got the effect already, you're just determining what caused it. Here you're arguing if a political change even happened. So your why, your answer might be that there was massive political change. Or your answer could be that there was next to no political change. There was actually political continuity in this era. Again, the biggest idea here isn't that you're just describing history, but you're being argumentative with history. Turn history into tools. Some popular words you'll see in questions, because they're not always going to be crystal clear. Like a change in continuity might not just say change or continuity. Compare and contrast might not use the words compare and contrast. So some words that sometimes can be a little tricky. If you see a word like analyze, it's usually asking you to do a how and why. Like analyze American expansion. That might be a real question about how and why American expansion occurs. Evaluate's a super popular word. That's your judgment. And that's a great word to keep in mind as we're trying to be argumentative and persuasive in our writing. We're not describing history, we're evaluating history, we're judging history. We're making a opinion on it and using history to prove our opinion the right one. If you see a phrase like to what extent, think of that in terms of how much. That's a great thing you see a lot for change in continuity questions. To what extent did America become more democratic, right? So maybe you'd argue to a vast extent it became democratic. There was a massive change. Or maybe to a very limited extent, America became more democratic. It showed more continuity. So those are some popular phrases and words that kind of come up that can sometimes throw you off the scent, but you should be able to look past them and see what the question's really asking you for. The rest of this week, we're going to keep doing AP review. I got some pretty cool content things that I think will really help you out in terms of specific groups throughout history. So as always, we're in kind of the fourth quarter here, so let me know how I can help. Please send me questions so I can help you out. All right, talk to you soon.